Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Another night of roundtables. Tonight it is volleyball night here at Sports Corner at 124. I'm Dewain Hulett, Shelby Burget alongside. And tonight we only have two coaches with us. The elder statesman of the area and one of the newbies of the area is with us, Coach Tim Kerr from Southeastern, Hillary Humes from Macomb. And Shelby, last night we started things off as, the community news brief and Rushville Times, TSSR Game Time Live come together to do this. And we thought tonight, since we only have two coaches and we know they both love to talk, we just start it with them on air.
I say just turn them loose and let them go because they have lots of things to say and they are fountains of information.
I got a Walmart pickup at midnight, so I'm good for a little bit.
Is Walmart even open till midnight?
I don't know.
Coach Kerr, I give you a hard time, and when we talk after games a lot, it seems to be a lot of reminiscing. But as we see so many new coaches in the area, it probably has to hit you a little bit sometimes when every time you go down to a new school or a new school comes to you, or it's a different coach.
Yeah, I got to break the newbies in. I have kind of this rough exterior, so at first they don't like me very much, and then they find out I'm just a teddy bear and I'm not as mean as I look and act. So
who could not like you?
I gotta break them in again. So no, it's exciting to see the new people come out, and I just have been blessed for my career being able to coach for such a long time at Southeastern, and guys like Seth Klusemeyer at Unity still doing it. So we are the old timers, but it's been fun, and I can't see giving it up. So I don't know. We'll see.
This lady sitting down here to my left, she's not the first one that you've coached against that
Correct.
Has played against you,
yeah.
But just one of the line that seems to keep happening to you.
There are a lot of coaches that I've coached against, and she's part of the Terry Paul regime, so it's I'm really excited for her. I kind of watched her grow up and her family, and coached against them, and they're really, really good, and it's nice to see her finally. I assume this is something maybe that's a dream of hers that's coming true, and so I'm really excited for Hillary and what she can do with the program. And obviously, you look at in my tenure, you look at the first half of my tenure, and Macomb wasn't so strong in volleyball, and all of a sudden they turned it on, and man, they're just a load, not only in the area but in the state. So it's exciting for her to be able to take that program over, and I know she'll do great things, and I know she has a good staff with her and a lot of good young players. They've been really good in junior high for several years, and she's got to be super excited about the tank being full. So looking forward to her having a good career as long as she wants to be at Macomb, and I know I'm not looking forward necessarily to playing her, but we'll see what happens when we get there.
Oddly enough, the change in volleyball, history, so to speak, for Macomb came via Colchester/West Prairie former players kind of changing the program around over here, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of come full circle, and it's really, it's cool. As a volleyball historian type for this area, it's cool for me to see this happen. It's she's been around forever. She's new to the Macomb area for volleyball. I can rest assured you can rest assured that she's not new for the volleyball area, because she's been around as a player and as assistant coaches and freshman coaches, and so I'm sure she can tell you more about her resume than I can, but I just know that she's a familiar face, and someone who most importantly loves the game and loves students and loves kids, and how can you not be excited about that if you're in the Macomb area?
Well, Hillary,
how do I follow that up?
I don't. You know what? The funny thing is that's what everybody says about him.
Just tell him the check's in the mail.
We laugh about that, but Bree was a really good coach at Macomb. She really turned the program around, and you're following in some pretty big footsteps of what she's been able to do. But you've been around, for people that don't know you, you've been around really good coaches, and you've been around Bree the last however many years.
Yes.
So it's not like you don't know how this thing works.
Right.
You came from the same coaching tree that she came from.
Right. Yeah. Bree really built the Macomb program into what it was with her work ethic, what she wanted to do for the program. She had to fight a lot of building, getting the players. So to take that over it's a lot of pressure, but it's good kind of pressure. Like, you want to step into that role and add to it. We both come from West Prairie. Colchester for her. The same program from Terry Paul, so we both know the work ethic, the drills, what it takes to be a successful program and to put that onto the court with the players. Yeah.
So I guess the elephant in the room, Shelby, we can't go without pointing out the fact that Terry Paul is on your staff.
Yes.
And I think you
what?
broke the collective hearts.
I'm really not looking forward to playing her now.
I think you broke the collective hearts of the rest of McDonough County when you brought her on your staff.
I did. And it really just started out as a joke. It was Memorial Day weekend. We were just joking around about she should just come in the gym this summer and see if she likes it and likes the program. And she kind of took that to heart. And she came in this summer, and yeah, she really felt a calling to be there and to be with me. We've always been player coach, so it's fun to get to be coach, mentor. Still, she'll always be my mentor no matter where. But now it's coach, and then she's kind of under me, which you don't really think of Terry Paul being under anybody. But she's really taken a back seat and just observed a lot this summer, learning the girls, learning the way Macomb runs differently than West Prairie, obviously, but learning how we communicate with our players and with our staff. And the girls have really taken to her. I've really tried to instill in them, like, you have one of the most successful, knowledgeable coaches in the area. Like, use her for a resource.
And by area, you mean the United States, right?
Yes.
I was going to say, that's what I was getting ready to ask you, Coach. Would you agree with one of the most in the area? I mean, that area is a really big area.
Yes.
You know, when she's talking about it being a joke, Coach Kerr was trying to stifle his laughter down there when she said that.
I've tried to talk Terry Paul into helping me coach for 20 years. I have to talk to her about what was I doing wrong, what Hillary do right.
I think it might be the bloodline.
Yeah, that could be.
It might be the bloodline.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, you are her niece.
Yes.
So it has to feel for you, having played for her and learned from her both as a player, as a coach, and now getting to have her on your staff. I mean, it's kind of like he mentioned, a full circle thing, but it has to feel like overly special considering all the things you've done with her, and she's your aunt too.
Yeah, it's so special. We're just one big volleyball family. My older sister Jessica played for her, was a big player for Colchester, and then played at Truman State. Brittany, another big player, setter for Colchester. So anytime we're together, we talk volleyball. It drove my grandparents crazy. It probably drives my dad crazy still. So we always talked volleyball. Even when I came to Macomb and she was still with West Prairie, Bree and I, and even Cora, we didn't hesitate to reach out to her and tell her what we were seeing and get her opinion on things. So it's great to have her in the gym now as a coach and a mentor, but also as my aunt. It's special to be in the gym and get to share that part of it too.
Hey, Coach, I guess if we really wanted to, we could say, since Terry is assistant coach at Macomb, that makes you not the elder statesman.
That's true. Let's do that. By the way, I still have nightmares about Jessica Sears and Brittany Paul. So I just shuddered when you said those things.
Both of those would do that to you.
Please. Let's keep those references to a minimum for the rest of the night. That's okay.
Now, okay, I want to say something that makes you feel a little better, because Shelby, tell me the stat that you said Hillary mentioned to you about junior high.
Oh, well, it was like I think at the JV level a couple years ago. I think maybe this group of seniors. I think
Yes.
you remember.
Yes.
Where her group lost 5 matches all year.
Okay.
4 of them were to you at Southeastern.
Hey.
Yes.
That got a smile on his face.
About time we get some credit over here.
Yep.
So, Hillary is one of the players, now a coach, that you and I have talked about several times through the years, Coach, about how Coach Kerr, about how volleyball has gotten more prevalent in West Central Illinois, and I know you don't try to take much credit for it, but you and Coach Paul are probably 2 of the biggest reasons, and you had Coach Klusmeyer in there as well. You 3 are probably some of the biggest reasons why volleyball has taken that step forward in West Central Illinois, and probably around the state, but especially over here.
Well, that's very humbling. I appreciate you saying that. I just walked into this gig.
I remember talking to you that
28
first
years
year.
ago. Yeah. I played some sand volleyball back when I was in college. I mean, when I say sand volleyball, I'm talking about like with my aunt and uncle and my grandma and grandpa and my mom and dad. We had a net that was sagging in the middle, and so I knew what a volleyball was. But we had an opening, and I liked the game, and I'd coached golf for 2 years, and I was coaching 5th and 6th grade basketball at the same time, and so the need arose, and I took it, and I literally for the first couple of years had no clue what I was doing. And I remember the first year, in fact, we were 16-16 the year before I took over, and then my first year I think we ended up being like 23-8. And we came in, and I remember the regional. There were 5 teams in the regional. Macomb was ranked number 1, and they were something like 30-1 or something. And they had the Runzer girl. I don't know if you remember her or not.
Mm-hmm.
They were unbelievable. Colchester was ranked 2. I don't remember who was 3. We were 4, and Industry was 5. And all 5 teams in the regional had over 22 wins. And it was just that's the way it was back then. And I remember being the 4 seed, and we beat Industry for the play-in. And then we actually upset Macomb for either the first or second loss, and it was one of those things where it's a 1 in a million shot, and we won it, and we beat them. And that night I could have run for mayor. Colchester would have won because they knew for a fact that they probably weren't going to beat Macomb, but they could beat us, and they did. And they beat us in the regional championship, and that was my first taste of regional. And I remember Greg Phelps. His interview started out with a Ric Flair woo call. I remember that distinctly. I mean. And since then I look back and I try to remember, and I've obviously been at Southeastern all my life. I graduated from there, and I went away to college for 4 years and came back, so I've been at Southeastern forever. So I try to remember all the teams that I've had, and I kind of try to remember the seniors of each team. And man, there's been some good players and some good people, and a lot of memories, and just a lot of blessings that I've been able to have. And so yeah, I thank you for that comment, because that really means a lot, because we really have. There's been a lot of sacrifices and a lot of time in the gym and away from family and on buses, but it's been absolutely worth it for sure. Just so many good kids and so many memories and good times, and it's been a blessing. So yeah, I appreciate that.
I don't think you see that as much now in volleyball as you used to. I think when you started and before, you saw that quite a bit. The coaches didn't really know much about volleyball necessarily at schools. But in the last 15 or 20 years, that's not the case anymore. I mean, Hillary is a new head coach for varsity. She's coached junior high, and she's assisted, and she's done all this stuff. But she knows volleyball, right? She's not learning the game while she's teaching the game like you had to do.
Right.
And I don't think there's very many coaches now that come into volleyball that are that way.
No, I think you're right. I think I think the game in general has really grown. And I also remember back, a lot of the wins that we had early on were, you have so many co-ops and consolidations now. You used to have, it's just like in basketball. I remember in basketball when I played basketball at Southeastern, we had, there were 10, 11, 12 teams in the Hancock County tournament. There were Hancock County schools. Right. And now we have 3 or 4. And we have to invite Keokuk and Unity to even make a tournament. So same thing, you always had, you had your Carthages and your Warsaws and your Hamiltons. That was all different teams, and so I think the combination of fewer teams and the kind of the uprising of the sport itself, and I think the club scene, although we don't really benefit from that too much because we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I think the club scene is kind of added to that. I think you see that a lot in the Quincy area. We talked about coaching junior high, and I know early on in my career coaching junior high, the Quincy teams, weren't real strong at the beginning because they had so many kids. They didn't start early, and now, boy, they look like JV teams from the get-go because they've had so much club experience. Yep. And I think that just all that kind of plays into it. That really, it's really a good level of volleyball, early on in junior high, and then it just keeps getting better and better at the high school level. So it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see the new rule changes and how the game has kind of progressed. I don't know if we'll talk about rule changes tonight or not, but some of the things that
I do want to talk about some of those actually, but we'll get to
if we can eliminate any talk of any the officials. I'm not a big officials fan either. So. But just some of the changes. The game is different. You try to and been there as long as I have, you start thinking about, okay, would my Michaela Frey, Marcy Dixon, Carrie Leisman team, how would they have done with my, Amanda Stevens, that Taylor Wagner team? As far as it's almost like, the Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain versus the Michael Jordans versus LeBron. The eras are just different, and I think the game has evolved and the game's better and it's more exciting and it's quicker and you don't hear the whistle blow every third of a second
Most
because
of the time.
some right. So I think all of those are good changes, and I think those just add to not only the kids loving the game more and being able to play and have excitement, but also it's more of a fan-friendly game as well, I think, at this time.
He's been coaching as long as you've been alive, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just to
Thank
throw that
you.
out there.
Thank you.
But I think Shelby would agree with this, and probably Coach Kerr would. I feel like you should still be like 18, because I remember when you played. It doesn't seem like it's.
I feel that way about a lot of kids I see that are coaching now.
But you've seen quite a few changes from when you started playing to now too, haven't you?
Yes. I think the libero change, I was still in junior high, but I think when West Prairie first became West Prairie, I think was the first year the libero was introduced, if I remember that right. But I think for most of the rules that we have today are still obviously the new double rule that's
right.
changed. I'm trying to think of any new ones, but like we had the let serve, we did rally scoring, 25 was our point because I know in college they were going to 30, but then they dropped that back down to 25. So
you get the changes with there's been some more co-ops since you were in school.
Yep.
There's been some changes like that, and I think that Coach Kerr and you both would agree that I think the level of volleyball in general, maybe it's only because of that, but I think it's more because coaching and stuff has changed. But the level of volleyball has increased, at least across the board. Maybe there's still those good teams, but the bottom is not where the bottom used to be. It's a lot higher than it
for
used to be.
sure. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that's what makes volleyball, for me, probably my favorite sport to watch, because it's and on a given night, this, just like he was talking about, you guys beat teams that people never gave you a chance to, and heck of beating too, didn't you?
Yep. I'm Q&D is always a big one. We'll face them in the postseason. Just that's the nature of being in 2A in this area. But that's the teams you want to play and compete against. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. So let's go to the rules a little bit. The big one is the double touch or double hit on a second ball.
Yep.
So some games that were really slowed or sped up, I don't know which way that'd be, maybe sped up by the second touch call all the time, will be a little different now, I think. Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I think so. I wish I would have did this 4 years ago. We might have had a state championship instead of
That's true. That is very true, isn't it?
I still got the guy that called my daughter for three doubles in the state championship game. I got his picture on my dartboard still. Yeah, I mean,
I'll edit that out.
Yeah,
later.
please. Yeah. No. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I think it'll be fine. So what's going to happen? And I talked to an official actually yesterday about this. But what's going to happen is that's going to just shift the officials. There's that four-letter word, officials, for me. But that's going to shift. I think their focus to now the third touch.
Yes.
I think you're going to.
Yep.
I think you're not going to be able to shoot the ball over very much. I think you're going to they're going to sit on that, and I think you're going to have where you may have had a clean play before. They're going to probably call it just because they want to hear the whistle blow. And but as far as the double in the second, I don't know. I guess it's fine. It helps us a little bit because we're still back in the old days where our right side takes the second ball instead of the libero. I'm sure your libero probably takes the second ball, but our right side, we don't feel like we have enough firepower on the right side. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We still want to get the ball to our middles and our lefts. So for us, it makes more sense to get the ball to our right side, and our right side's a butcher setter. So she can butcher it all she wants to, and she's not going to get called as long as she doesn't get it over the net. So we've, for us, I think it's going to help us. But at the same time, sometimes we feel like we're cleaner than other teams too. So I'm probably going to love it when it happens when they don't call it on my side. And I'm probably going to hate it when they don't call it on the other side. That's probably the nature of the whole thing.
What's your take?
I think it's good and bad. I think it'll give the setters some leeway. Setting's a really tough skill, and you can train and your hands will still misconnect on the ball. So I think it'll give them a little leeway. And in game, when they get that call, it kind of tanks their confidence a little bit, especially in a super sectional or a state game.
Yeah.
And then so it'll give them a little breathing room to, if the ball comes off spinning, they don't have to panic as much. And like he said, I think they're going to be looking at that third contact with two hands. If they take it over with two hands, we've been training taking over with one hand, so we avoid that. They'll be looking for other ways. So we've been looking at our libero takes second ball, so we've been trying to work them taking it with their hands as well, because they'll avoid that double call as well, and then giving a little bit more room, that wiggle room that way. So I think it's good and bad.
I'm going to tell you what I think is, and I've seen it a lot. There's a lot of times where if it was anybody but the setter, they were going to get a double hit. It really didn't matter. And that's a lot of places and a lot of officials. If it was anybody but the setter that was getting the second touch and they were trying to set it, it wasn't a bump set, they were going to get a double.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of discrepancy. The farther you went in the postseason, the more ticky-tack they were about it, which I understand that, the farther you go, the higher level you are. So I kind of get it, but it still was frustrating at times because it looked to me like there were some really clean plays that were blown dead. And again, I hated it when it's called against us, and I love it when it's called against other teams. So, it's not fair for me to say either.
My thing is I watch a lot of volleyball, not as much as you guys do, but I watch a lot. And I would say 75% of the time, I couldn't see it.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? I couldn't see the double touch. And I'm like, come on, just, for me as a broadcaster, just let them play. Let them play. So I like it for that reason, but at the same time, it's the same reason as a broadcaster. I don't like rally scoring. I don't like, you know what I'm saying?
The let serve,
Right. I don't like the let serve. I don't like any of that stuff because it takes away from the skill of the game, and more often than not, it slows the pace of the game down. And that's what, for a broadcaster, but at the same time, I get why they do those things.
Well, I think part of that feeds into, unlike where, an in or out call or anything like that is subjective. It's the beauty and quote-unquote beauty in the eye of the beholder, what may be that for one person may not be for somebody else. So, I think you kind of run into a little bit of a consistency problem there just for that fact. Which
is what bothers me about it, because it shouldn't be, right? If two hands touch it, it shouldn't be. It should be two hands or no hands. You know what I'm saying? It's one or two, and then.
Right.
But and why call it if nobody in the place except you sees it that way?
You watch though, that third hit, they're going to be all over that this week. I guarantee you. That's going to drive me crazy.
And so what's that lead to? 5 years of that, and then then there's no illegal hits on it either.
Yeah, probably.
And the other thing that kills me is no illegal. Just the no double touch on a serve receive. Literally, it can hit you in the hands, roll up your arm, and smack off your face, and that takes a ton of skill out of the game too.
Right. Sure.
That's just me on my soapbox.
Well, and the refs are going to have to maybe let go too of, if the hitters are going to start attacking with one hand, not calling as many throws now. They're going to have to maybe some of that. That's going to have to be a judgment call for them. So if we're going to get called for doubles on third contact over with two, and we want to take it with one, well, are they going to start calling us for throws? So then how are we going to get the ball over if we're not swinging? And we don't want a free ball at the varsity level, because that's just free points for the other team. So it's going to be hard for them to decide now what they're going to call and what they're going to let go.
I never thought about that. You think there'll be more throws called?
She's right. They're going to have to make a judgment call, because we're doing the same thing. We're working on trying to throw the ball down the line and literally throw the ball down the line. So it's just because like we predicted, it's just going to happen. So I used to love the ball from our outside hitter. Put both hands on it and shoot it down the line, and there's no defender there, and it's great. And I just fear that that's going to give them something else to call, and I don't know. I agree with her. And as far as the throws go, that's always been it's just such a, like you said before, such a judgment, and you find a big aggressive middle, and she does her thing, and if you're on this, I keep bringing this up, but if you're on the side, the 11, if you're on the other side,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
if it's your player doing it, yes, good job. If it's their player doing it, that's got to be a throw. And so it's one of those things that there's just going to be an adjustment period, I think. And I'm just like anything, different officials are going to land different
Yeah.
with different thresholds, and we're just going to have to figure that out and how to do our thing. So it'll be fine, and it's still going to be the same game, and just a few little intricacies, things that are different, and we'll figure it out.
You know, hearing you say that, it kind of reminds me. I officiate a lot of racing, and you know, people will take each other out on purpose occasionally, right? And they'll say, "Well, I didn't mean to do that." I said, "I was looking at you when the incident started at the other end, and then you went down and wiped him out at the other back in the next turn." I said, "You need to get better
right.
at hiding that
Exactly.
stuff."
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I completely understand why you want to do it, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I get it. I understand. I mean, I'd want to do it too, but you got to hide it better.
Right.
Yes.
And that's where the throws,
Yeah.
the person that can hide that throw the best is gonna get away with it the most, right?
Right.
So, as you guys look through a season, I'm kind of interested to see where Coach's opinion is as opposed to Coach Kerr's to Coach Hume's. As you look through a season, and you guys, everybody makes the playoffs, right? Everybody's in the postseason. As you look through a season, if you lose a few games here or there in the process of building something, do you care? Or is it always we need to win every game for mentality purposes?
Every game. We want to win every game. There's again, I think there's a balance. You don't want to play cupcake schedule. You want to play tough teams. You want to get better. You want to have teams expose you early on to know what you need to get better at for the long run. At the same time, I remember, we've been asked a few times to play in the tournament at the end of the year at Quincy Notre Dame against the big dogs, and I've never wanted to do that because, number one, it's the weekend before regionals, and I don't want anybody to roll an ankle. But just as importantly, I don't want to go in and get our brains beat out by 4A teams heading into the regional because it is a mentality thing. There is a lot of confidence that you build up, and I like to try to put our schedule where there's never really a stretch where I feel like we're going to lose. In the last several years, we're not going to lose 4 or 5 matches in a row. Because that really, and maybe it's just me, but I think that really takes a toll. You go a week or 2 weeks and not win a game and not win a match, then we're talking about young girls who have a lot of stuff going on other than volleyball in their lives. I mean, for our program and our team, we have fortunately developed a winning mentality, and we try to win matches, and that's kind of been expected of us for the most part for the last several years. So. But at the same time, there's that other. You want to play in some tournaments where you're going to get tested. You want to play Macomb. You want to play Quincy Notre Dame, and just to kind of see where you are. So it's a good question. I think there's a balance, just like everything. But for us, in terms of, and I go back to that same year, that second place team that I was talking about earlier, and we look and we lost to Macomb, we lost to QND, and those were the only regular season matches we lost. And that was easy for me to coach that. We're not going to see them in the postseason. They're 2A schools. If those are the only, I think we only lost to 2A schools that year, except for the state championship game. So for us in that situation, then you look like, hey, look, they showed us this. We need to work on this in practice, and these are some things that we can be better at and be more aggressive here or less aggressive there. And you can learn from those things. At the same time, you don't want to throw too many of those in a season because you obviously, I've never been, and I've probably gotten more so as I've gone through the years, but I've never been someone who just, hangs their hat on, how your season ends up is how your season went. I look at, all of the accolades that teams that go the farthest in the postseason get, and I understand that and I recognize that. But a perfect example for me is this. You look at the Illini West program the last couple of years, and they have had outstanding teams the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, and they haven't done anything in the regionals because they went into Macomb, they went into QND, and absolutely that has nothing to do with that being a failing season for them. To me, especially in 1A, it kind of depends on where you get thrown in the postseason. There's times I remember a couple years ago when the number 1, the number 2, the number 4, the number 7 team in the state were in the same regional. and you don't win that regional, and that's not a failure. You've gone 33-4, and that's not, just because you didn't have the regional doesn't make that a failure. So I've really, for me, it's the whole body of work. It's the entire season. You like to do well in the tournaments that you're in the regular season, obviously, and then of course you want to succeed in the postseason. Of course you want to go win a regional and win a sectional and those type of things. But for me, I've never been someone who really sets a lot of goals that say, if we don't make it this far, it's been a failure. Because like last year, we lost in the sectional to Hartsburg-Emden. They went on to the state tournament. We were better than probably 10 teams that were still alive at that time. So. To me, you have to be careful as a coach, or I think you have to be careful as a coach, trying to put so much emphasis on that last week or so of practice. Now, as far as goals for us, I always say for my team and my level, and I said let's try to win 25 games the minimum. And let's try to play a volleyball match or two in November. If you're playing in November, you probably won a regional. For our little podunk Class A school, you win 25, you won a regional, you probably had a pretty good year. And that's really as far as I ever get is in terms of goals. And to win 25, you got to win a lot of games in the regular season. And to win a regional, you got to play good at the end. So those are kind of the factors, and those are about the only 2 goals I ever put on us at all. I don't like to put the pressure on us, and I don't. Just because the fact that you control what you can control, but at the end of the day, there's only one best team in the state, and if you happen to be the second best team in the state and you match up with the first best team in the state early on, I think it's too much pressure, and I think it's too much of I think it's inconsistent in terms of what you're trying to teach your kids and try to be successful and try to have a good season, and then at the very end you happen to catch a tough draw. Or I remember one year we had 6 out of our 7 starters that were sick at the regional championship, and we lost to Liberty. We beat Liberty like a drum the 3 previous times. That doesn't make that season a failure. So to me it's just the whole body of work from the first practice to the end, and just have fun and get better and love each other as a team and love each other as teammates, and try to put as many wins on the board as you can. And if you lose a few along the way, hopefully you learn from it, and hopefully you don't lose too many that you think you should have won. And you put all those things together, and you've had yourself a pretty good season. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, which is way too long, I know.
Do you even remember what the question was?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. You might repeat it for me, just in case.
I don't know if I remember what the question was. That's why I was asking if you knew what it was.
The question is, does it matter if you lose any matches along the way?
I mean,
I knew what it was.
Yes. Okay. And we kind of bookend our season. We have our Macomb Classic the first weekend, which is next weekend actually, and then we end our season with the Q&D tournament. So it's 2 tough seasons to kind of bookend our season, and how to kind of jump on what he said about that Q&D tournament is there are some really tough teams in that tournament, and if you kind of go and struggle, that's the last play you have before postseason. It can tank your morale going into the postseason, which kind of happened to us last year, if I can be honest. And we spent that whole season, most of the season, undefeated, which is a success. It's very impressive. And then I think Q&D handed us our first loss in the regular season, and we just couldn't recover from that loss. And for the rest of October, we couldn't find our groove again. And then going into that Q&D tournament, and then so going into in October, you really want to be at your best volleyball. You want to be at your peak in October. And that's where you want to see most of your wins, in my opinion. It might differ for all coaches. But in October, you really want to hit your peak, because that's where you'll take it into your postseason play. And we just weren't playing our best volleyball at the end of last year. But we like going to Q&D because Breeze Modern Day plays in that tournament, and they're a potential super sectional opponent. So you want to play them. Q&D is always a regional opponent or a sectional opponent. So we want to see those teams and fight through it and play through it. And Hartsburg's been in it. And even though they're 1A, they're always competitive. So it's kind of give and take at the end of the season. But we like seeing those teams that we'll potentially see in the postseason. And if we're playing our best volleyball, then we'll compete. But starting off the Macomb Classic, you could also start your season off with a handful of losses that could start your season off with bad morale. And you don't want to start that either. And I know we have teams that don't always want to come to the Macomb Classic because they don't want to start their season off with those losses. But again, in early September to August, you take a couple losses and you learn from it and grow. As long as you're growing into October at your peak, you really don't want to be at your peak in August and September because then you have nowhere to grow. So if we take a couple losses early on and just have that communication of how can we learn from it, how can we grow from it, and we will grow from it, I think that's fine, taking those losses early on.
How do you try to figure that? Because last year, like you said, you guys started, 21-0 or whatever it was before your first loss. Now, say you start, next week and you go like 3-2 or something like that. I mean, how do you kind of keep these guys from maybe dropping their head a little bit and saying, we didn't go 5-0, blah, blah, blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, how can you kind of, keep them square about keep the eyes on the prize or whatever as far as going forward.
And this year, that'll be one of our biggest hurdles this year from the success they had last year, keeping their not so much focused on what they did last year, but still recognizing that last year's team was a very strong team. I mean, anybody can acknowledge that. I mean, they were a strong team, and they were a strong team, and we lost the second round of regionals. And like Tim was saying, that doesn't take away from the successes we had last year, because that's the nature of 2A and the higher class system you go. It just gets tougher even at the regional level. But keeping this year's squad focused on their future instead of looking back, well, they went 21-0, like we won't be as successful if we don't start out the season. Just lots of open communication with them. Like, we can still find success, find optimism in the losses, which is hard. It's always hard, finding those negatives and trying to turn them into positives and just grow from there.
Tim, you kind of what she was talking about, and you kind of mentioned it as well. You take things and you deal with them and you grow. You've had some of that the last couple of years, really, even with Amanda playing when all she ended up doing was setting for a while, and she missed time, and
all she could do is if she wasn't one of the strongest setters.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're dependent on her to be your best middle, and then suddenly she's not really able to hit.
Yeah.
But you and I talked that sometimes those things early to middle of the season can actually make the entire team stronger if you can get that person back.
Right, no question. In our situation, Amanda got a lot of the balls, obviously, and she was unable to do that. Coach Julian and I looked back, and we've talked about this several times in the last couple of weeks, just at how. And I even went back and looked at that video that we made of that team when Amanda was a freshman. And, man, she was so good. She was so good as a freshman. It's such a shame that she had the knee injuries that she had, and she had to sit out games and, miss part of her junior year, because I think she could have put up some just all-time numbers. I really do, because she literally played about 3 seasons out of 4 because of just her injuries and things. And so, but in terms of that, you have setbacks, and I think we might be a little bit different from her at the other end, just because it is a little bit more of a numbers game with us, as far as if I've got a kid that goes down, I don't necessarily have. I mean, I have next man up, but our next men that are coming up, there aren't as many of them, and we are limited a little bit in our resources, and that's the downside of the upside of playing not as tough of teams maybe in the postseason, but we've had some situations in the last couple of years, like you mentioned, where not just Amanda, but we've had kids go down, and you do look for the other players to step up and get more touches, and someone else is coming off the bench, and then at the end, if you get everybody back and rally the troops, hopefully you have a situation like she was talking about where you are playing your best volleyball in October in the postseason. So, it's one of those things. Like we've got a kid now that's a sophomore that would have played on our varsity this year, and she blew out her knee playing softball. And so this is the fewest numbers that we've had all year. The fewest numbers that we've had in my tenure coaching here. We have an entire freshman class that have 0 volleyball players. There's only 3 or 4 girls in the whole entire class. So, our numbers are down. So, we have one of our best sophomore athletes, and who would have been arguably a starter on this team, and now she's not playing all year long. That hurts us. And in that situation, we're not getting her back until next year. So that situation is tough. But in general, you go through those trials and tribulations. Most every team does all year. Every year you have some kids that go down, or you have sickness, or you have something, and other kids step up, and you just hope that that experience that they're getting, those extra touches that they're getting, even extra leadership roles that they're taking when someone else is not on the floor, will pay dividends for you at the end, just because in confidence and in execution later on. I could definitely see that how it can help you. At the same time, you don't want your studs out, because we can attest that sometimes doesn't. You end up on the short end of the stick where you think you could have really gone a long ways, and you don't get to go as far, for sure.
Coach Humes, he said something about leadership, and you talked about losing some players. You really lost the core leadership of the varsity team last year. I would imagine that this summer and even now, finding those leaders and making sure your setters is right and all that stuff is probably as much as the fundamentals right now, is finding that leader who's going to take charge on the floor. Yeah,
this summer we did. It was a lot of change with the players and with the coaching staff. So that just there was so much change coming into the gym. We're still trying to find our way a little bit. We're getting on that track. So summer was a lot of working around that and embracing that change, and we're all kind of starting. I mean, we're starting on a blank slate, everybody. And so if you really weren't seen as a leader before with different coaches, it's kind of your chance to really step into that role now, and take more of a leadership role, take more of that ownership on the court. And a blank slate for me, I'm looking for 6 people to go out there and start, and I coach them, the seniors, as JV, and the juniors last year as JV. So, and I know the girls, but I'm in a different capacity now as the head coach. So show me what you can do, and earn that playing time out there. And so they've taken to that this summer, and those steps. Yeah, every day you're still working at it, and one thing might happen, then changes happen, and then you can still fight for those spots. And
you talked about, Coach Kerr, you talked about people playing and injuries and stuff. Do I remember right that in the state championship game, your daughter, the setter, right, was injured or hurt, maybe an ankle or something like that? Was that year?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It could be. I think it might have been that year. I don't know.
You don't remember either?
I think you're probably right. She's probably gonna kill me.
She can send us if she's watching, she can message us right now on here and tell me if I was wrong or right.
She could do that. Yeah, she had some ankle injuries kind of throughout, and she was pretty tough. She played through a lot of that, and she, unlike myself, wasn't really a high riser, so the verticality part of the game really wasn't her forte. So she was able to get along with
her foot. Somebody says it was her foot.
That might be my wife. Hopefully not.
Well, anyway, that's part of it, though, right? Especially at the small school. And really, in all honesty, Macomb's not a huge school.
Sure,
they're
absolutely.
huge compared to us, most everybody else in the area, but they're not big.
No, correct.
So numbers and injuries are a huge part of what both of you guys have to deal with all year long. Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I remember sometimes when other coaches find out how little we actually practice, they're astonished, because we don't really. I believe in getting them in, getting them out, and really not burning them out. And so we'll often practice, hour and 15, maybe cut down to even an hour when we go through the season. So, but I remember distinctly my oldest daughter was on the team. She was a setter, and trying to spark my memory. Oh, okay.
She wore a boot after the season.
Oh yeah, she did do that. Sorry about that, Michelle. Sorry, Annie. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm sorry I brought that up.
No, that's great. I remember Kara Tordell, who was one of my good players over the several years ago, and I remember I can't remember where we were the season, maybe middle of the season, beginning of the season, I don't remember, but I know I had made the call, okay, last ball, and I put the last ball in play, and she hurt her ankle, and she was out for 2 weeks. I've always remembered that, and literally almost every single practice I'll think, okay, if we quit now, everyone's still intact. No one's hurt right now. And a lot of times I'll quit 5 minutes early, 7 minutes early, just because I remember that, because like I said, it is. And it's Hillary will tell you too, volleyball is so unique in the fact that you throw one person out of the mix and it just completely wipes any kind of continuity and any confidence away from everybody else, because you have to realign everything. You have to realign your serve receive. You have to, you have different people playing different spots, which is completely different than some other sports. So, I really probably am over anxious about trying to prevent those type of things, just because I know that it is such a game changer, when things like that do happen.
Injuries, even if you are a deeper, moving your second to the first and the third to the second changes things still, even for you guys, doesn't it?
Right. It really does. And it's such a give and take. You want your practices to be really intense, probably more intense than a game. You want your practices to be, you want to almost fail at the drills you're doing, because then when you get into a game, this is easy. We failed in practice, this is easy. But you also don't want them to be so intense and so hardcore that they're going to get hurt and fly under the net and hurt. So it's a real give and take, at least for us, trying to decide, even in the summer, you want to push and compete in some tournaments, but you don't want to get hurt as they're just coming back into the summer. But yeah, even just changing one player around because of an injury, or it does throw things off. And it's so funny how it's just interesting how that happens, and suddenly they forget how to call the ball and go for the ball, but it just throws them off.
It's almost like they forgot how to play the game. Especially you've coached at the JV level, especially the JV level.
Yes.
You do something like that, and it's almost like they've never seen the game before.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Communication is probably in volleyball, and it happens so quick you wouldn't necessarily think it was more reaction than communication, but communication, I think, in volleyball is the most important and more important than any other sport.
Yeah, it is. It's funny, and it's funny that I always laugh at the fans and the parents and the grandparents who just get so ticked off when your setter runs all the way across the floor to try to take the second ball, and we're like, there were 3 other players that were closer. What's going on? And the whole idea of that is just to limit the communication errors and not having those things in addition to the angles and things like that. But yeah, it is, and I think that's what's so important about developing team chemistry and developing that leadership, not only, on the bus and the hallways, but developing that leadership on the floor. There's times when, a broken play last year, we knew Amanda was going to take the third ball, whatever, So just the leadership on the floor like that, you have your kids that are maybe not even necessarily your best players all the time, but they're the leaders in times of kind of turmoil and out of system stuff. And that really helps you with that. But yeah, it definitely, you can definitely see a team that has communication issues because it just shows up so much and so often, because you're literally having to communicate each and every play, each and every time you have the ball on your side. So it is a big thing, and the quicker you can develop that, the quicker you can kind of, in my opinion, develop a hierarchy of who's going to take the ball here, who's going to take the ball there, in addition to all your rules that you're having as well. It just makes things go smoother, and it makes the cleaner play and better play. Can
you teach communication, Hillary? Or does it just have to come?
You can. I think it starts at the younger levels. If you develop it young and then just grow on it, we see that with some of our classes, our middle classes that were and I don't blaming COVID on everything, but we didn't get to start them as young. So then they're just starting volleyball, and we don't have a 5th and 6th grade program. So when they just are starting in 7th and 8th grade, you have to take away time from developing skill to work on calling the ball, moving your feet. So I think if you develop it young and then just continue to grow it, it can be taught. We focus, and communication isn't so much about how loud you're yelling, because you play teams that are shouting, but it's not effective communication. So I think if you're working on, is your communication effective? So you don't have to be necessarily the loudest out on the court to be an effective leader, an effective communicator, if you're knowledgeable about the game, aware of the plays we're running, and just constantly giving feedback to your teammates. What do you see here? What do you see there? Is the dump open? Can I tip here? I'll take your seam. All kinds of that is effective communication versus just screaming to call the ball mine.
I think a lot of people don't understand, as far as the communication part of it goes, that you may have two teams that are equal in talent, but the team that's going to communicate better, 99 times probably out of 100, is going to be the one that's going to end up winning.
Yes.
My favorite thing in junior high is when we start, just doing simple passing back and forth, and we'll talk about communicating and calling the ball every time you touch it. And my favorite thing is having to stop practice multiple times because my kids will say mine as the ball hits their platform. Like, that doesn't do any good. You got to be early. What did that do? Saying mine as you pass it.
Yes.
So also not only just like she talked about, being intelligent with your communication, but communicating early is important too in the game. So kind of everybody knows what's going on.
Coach Kerr, you said something that I say a lot on broadcasts, probably from talking to you and Terry Paul through the years, out of system.
Yeah.
I remember when I started at the Colchester Chronicle back in the day. It's when Jessica was an 8th grader, I believe, and they went to state, and they won state that year. But I was told I needed to go cover the state tournament. Now, I'm from Bushnell.
Right.
And no offense to any of the girls that I went to school with, but volleyball in Bushnell was horrible. I mean, I was like, I hate volleyball. I don't want to go watch volleyball. You know what I'm saying?
Bad volleyball is not a good sport.
No, and all I could think of was essentially PE volleyball, right? You get your 3 people in the front row, your 3 people, and you get your zone, and that's what you do, right? And that's kind of the way volleyball was, and to me, because they weren't very good. It wasn't fun to watch, and I went to watch that 8th grade game, and then suddenly these girls are pretty darn good, and then you start watching Colchester and Southeastern and Industry back in the day, and all these schools, and suddenly you're like, volleyball becomes a favorite sport. But out of system to a person at the time like me from Bushnell is like, didn't even know there was a system.
Right.
But out of system, can you explain that, maybe both of you or one of you, whichever one wants to? There's a person takes the ball, the setter is supposed to be the second ball all the time, right?
Yeah. I was, maybe Hillary could explain it, because I heard Terry Paul say it one time. It sounded smart, so I've just been saying it all along. No, I mean, obviously, the old cheer bump set spike it. That's the way we like it. That's when all the stars are aligned, everything's going well, and your first contact has gone where you want it to go, and your setter has some options, and the setter gets the ball to where you want it to be, and you swing, and then the ball hits the ground on the other side. Everybody cheers, and that's
simple.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and I wish that, and maybe I'm sure someone has done some studies on this, but I wonder at our level, small high school, class 1A, class 2A, I wonder what percentage of times we are in system versus when we're out of system. And then we actually had this talk tonight in my practice, is just the fact that, I don't know how you guys are doing right now, but we're ready to play. We're tired of practicing. It's kind of blah.
Yeah.
We're like, you guys aren't going to be able to beat anybody right now. The way your intensity's not there. When you are like that, when you're lethargic like that, and our kids seem to make a lot of out-of-system errors, and they just make uncharacteristic. In tennis, it's called unforced errors. No one caused you to make that mistake. You made that mistake yourself. And so, we had that talk today actually, and just how over the course of the last several years, we have really hung our hat on being able to make fewer out-of-system errors than everybody else. You don't want to just obviously you can't just pass the ball back to the other team, but you want to be aggressive at the same time. There's no nothing to gain to when you don't have a swing, just trying to swing and hitting the back wall or
the net.
There's nothing to gain. So in system is just when things go good and it looks pretty, and out of system is maybe you shank a pass, or maybe you make a bad pass because the other team drilled one at you, and you just got to scramble. And it's not necessarily bump set spike. Maybe it's bump and down ball, or maybe it's bump and just I don't know, push the ball in the corner, which you can't do anymore, right? So,
well, you think you can't do anymore,
right?
You'll find that out in about a week,
right? Exactly.
or a few days.
Exactly. But yeah, no. To me, especially at our level, being able to attack the ball out of system is so important, and be able to minimize your errors out of system is most important too. Right or wrong, almost at our level, it seems like whoever makes the least mistakes is going to win.
Which sounds so simple. Whoever makes right.
one of the things when I talk to Karis Korean a lot, and Karis talks about passing, and passing's important, right? But it's the first pass,
Yes.
Hillary, that really sets up the entire thing, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. And we call it our first contact, whether it's serve receive or our dig. That first touch is so important. It sets up the rest of your play. You can have the tallest, strongest hitters on your team, and if you don't get that first contact up to do something with it, then it won't do you any good. So, and I know the girls don't like it, but we train so much passing, so much serve receive, first contact drills, defense drills, and they can hate it, and they can curse me when they get home, but and they curse any coach that makes them train it, but you got to have that first contact if you want to be an aggressive team and have your offense, like he was saying, when you're out of system, finding ways to get kills out of system or in system. That first contact is the most important.
And it's not only just making that first pass, but making sure you make every effort to try to get it to your setter to where they can do something with the ball.
To the setter, where the setter is supposed
Yes,
to be.
because
Yes.
you'll get a lot of 10-foot passes or even 5-foot passes that takes the setter off a couple steps. So it's like your first steps, okay, you got the ball up, and it was on the 10-foot line. But now it's, okay, now get the ball on the target. Right, on the target. And we've expanded our target zone and having our setters being able to run a faster tempo, even if it takes them off a couple steps. But being satisfied with a good touch, or do you want to be satisfied with a near perfect contact, and we can run our full offense?
Because I remember your aunt there, where she was talking about, where we'd talk about stats after the game, and she would talk about passing. You know, was it like a 1 pass or a 2 pass or a 3 pass? You know, so it is. And this was all kind of like foreign to me, and I got to admit, in all my years watching that, I learned a lot from watching your aunt's teams play.
Yep.
Especially when I first started back in '92.
Yep.
You know,
we used to get,
because I was like Dewain. I was like, what is this?
Right. Well, I think Karis could probably acknowledge this too. We used to get like refrigerator boxes. I don't know, for targets. I mean, you had to pass the ball in the box. And it was consecutive passes, 20 consecutive. And if you missed, you had to start over. And you just drill that and drill that and drill that to have consistent passing, consistent touches, to keep that consistent offense.
Building on one thing, did you have something?
No, the other thing with that is just, you got to get the first ball where you want it, because that really hinders the defense to be able to stack up against your hitters too. If you don't get the ball where you want it, then it's going to be pretty apparent sometimes where you're going to set the ball, and you have, especially with us, we're usually pretty small on the outside. So if we got to swing against a big setup block, we're in trouble. So situations where pass the ball in the middle of the floor, and your sitter's got to go chase it, and everybody in the gym knows you're going to the outside. It makes it difficult. So that's the other thing too that I think is key. That it's just little subtle things like that maybe some people don't recognize or realize, but it really affects your your offense and your ability to win a match.
Building on what Coach Humes said about working on passing. One of the things that I mention a lot, and when I watch pregame warm-ups, Coach Kerr, is everybody on your team passes. Mm-hmm. Everybody on your team hits. So it doesn't matter if you're the shortest kid or the tallest kid, you're passing and you're hitting.
Sure.
That's not a thing at every school anymore, but it seems like, and I'm sure Hillary's going to be the same way, or Coach Humes, is it's going to be everybody needs to know how to do everything, because at some point you might have to do those things, right?
Yeah, no question, and that goes back to your out of system. You never know when the ball's going to come to you, and you're going to have to put a set up or pass the ball. Obviously, we all put our better passers in primary positions to take serves, but you never know when the ball's going to come short, and someone's going to have to pick it up off the net, or they're going to serve past your line of defense. Then your guy, your girl you're hiding back there is going to have to pass. So it's just it's one of those things, and it's never more apparent to me than when you have a sub in there or something, and the ball's going to find them. So if I put my team out there and I'm out there as a player, 50% of the times the ball's going to drop because I'm going to mess it up because I'm the weak link. So you really have to have good well-rounded kids are able to do all of the skills, and hopefully you train everybody for everything for the most part. We don't have not all of our kids set all the time, but we have our setters set a lot, and our right side set a lot, and our back row libero type person sets some too. But it's just really kind of a neat thing where you have a lot of kids do all the skills. We don't have our DSs do a lot of blocking footwork, but at the same time, pretty much everybody's doing everything for the most part.
Well, and as a player, you really want to be versatile with your skills. If you really can only hit on the right side, that limits your playing time. But if you can pass and hit all three spots, mostly on the pins, if you can serve, that makes you more valuable as a player to your team rather than just being, I can only really play in this one spot. So we work on training all the skills, and even setting, you never know what might happen. And like he said, at a system, we train our libero to take the second ball when the setter digs, but if you can't always control where that dig goes, if the middle front is on their transition, has to take that ball, giving them the confidence in that chaos to just put up a nice, consistent ball for the outside to take a swing on.
I had another question I was going to go to kind of bring this to an end, but she brought up one thing there. A couple years ago, I was talking to a player from a school, and she moved from right to left, and she was struggling on the left and wasn't getting a lot of help. You hear hitting the ball, you approach and you hit. All those positions hit different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way the ball travels, how far it has to travel, how far it gets to you. I mean, there's a lot of difference for those three hitters in the front. I mean, there's more than three, but the three at the front at any given time, there's so much difference. And you see a lot of lefts that when they're on the right, they'll take the first ball or they'll take the first hit from the right side. That's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, right?
Yeah, there's the footwork is different.
The ball's traveling across
right.
If they're right-handed on the right, your ball is traveling across your body, so it's a little bit longer to wait versus on the left, then your arm is where the ball is. So that adds a bit of difficulty too.
Yeah, see, your dream as a coach is have a 6'1" left-hander, so you can put her on the right side. Just let her hit away. So it's true, and that's one of the things. Especially we both have coached at the lower levels too. It's so hard to teach kids to hit all three spots, and it's so hard. Like I'm terrible. I'm a terrible coach for left-handers. It's just like in basketball. I mean, left-handed kids shoot right-handed layups better than right-handed kids shoot left-handed layups because you shoot right-handed layups all the time. You don't shoot left-handed layups very often.
Yep.
So those so it's kind of the same concept. It's just the angle's different, the footwork's different. It's definitely something that's unique, and you throw your middle in there. Your middle has so many different types of options for footwork and different types of attacks, and so it is different. And there's a lot of specialization, but at the same time, hitter's a hitter, and for the most part, your better kid's going to be able to adapt and do all the spots pretty well, hopefully.
Right.
Before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit about family. I mean, obviously you want your teams to be like a family, but you've had family go through your program that you've coached. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about your program with sisters and aunts and stuff. Family has been a really important part of this deal for both of you guys, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I have still above at my house, I still have my youngest daughter who just turned 29. She just is 29, and she just within the last 2 weeks has finished her veterinary stuff, so now she's going to be a true blue vet. And so one of the pictures that's above my computer is her when she was about probably 2 years old, and she has the old spray painted in Southeastern shirt on. She has a volleyball on. She's making some goofy face, and so it's really been something that all through my family it's been like I use a blessing a lot, but a blessing for us, and it's something all my girls played for me. Even my son Carson, who just graduated from high school last year, he's hilarious because he'll come home or he'll say, well, what do you think about Central? You think you're going to be able to stop Warren Miller tonight? I mean, a high school boy doesn't know that stuff unless their dad's the volleyball coach and has been for 28 years. So it is, and obviously my wife made fun of her earlier for making fun of me for not knowing about Annie's foot, but she's been awesome. She's just she comes to the games and is a fan, and she understands that during volleyball season I'm going to wear probably 4 different outfits a day, and does all the laundry, and just she's really been really, really good and really good for me and helpful and super positive. And she's probably the only person that I know that hates officials more than I do. She just chews them out. It's so funny. Sometimes when I get angry, I'll get yelling, get kind of loud and kind of vocal and kind of look like a pit bull and and I can do that. But as soon as she stands up and says that was this and that was, I said, Michelle, come on, take it easy, take it easy.
Hey, speaking of Michelle, yesterday you better say happy anniversary.
Our anniversary. I'm a smart man. I married my wife on her birthday, so we have an anniversary and her birthday on the same day. So that was yesterday. So I think 32 years, and I think she's 33 years old, I think, correct.
Yeah.
So it's been exciting, but it is for family for us has been nice. It has been a really, really good thing, and you go to your big games and you see your mom and your dad up there, and so it's been really cool. It's been exciting and it's been fun, and I talked about miss some things, but for the most part they've been right with me the whole time. So it's been really nice for me and to be able to really look back as my career kind of comes to a close. Looks back and just see all the good times. And we have been looking through pictures a lot lately because of Allie's vet thing and just different things, and just go back and you just see picture after picture after picture after picture of different players that you had and different
pink
poses
suits.
Pink suits. Yeah, that thing doesn't fit me anymore, by the way. How many times have I been there with my family with a regional plaque in our hands and stuff? So that's just really cool. So yeah, it's been exciting for me, and it's something I would never change for sure.
Give you a hard time a lot. Yep. You're a crier.
Oh man.
So I'm kind of surprised you haven't cried yet, to be honest with you.
I know.
Funny, and it's funny to me because I want to bring this up because the first year we started doing TSSR, we followed you guys through the postseason. That's when you went to state, and at the sectional championship game against Hartsburg-Emden, what did you have with you? Do you remember that?
Oh man, I don't know.
He wrote a letter. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, I did.
He wrote a letter, and he was going to have me read the letter because he was afraid he couldn't talk after. Am I wrong or am I right?
You're exactly right. I remember. Yeah, I remember if we were losing, if we lost, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to talk with you guys, and I thought, man, you deserve to have something read and something from us. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. So I had a letter. I remember that now. Yeah, I did. And I'm horrible at I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm just an emotional wreck at all times. I mean, I don't get through. They don't let me talk at graduation, and actually, I'm the principal, and they don't let me talk at graduation because they know I'm not going to get through it, because I'm crying. So.
You can always make him talk about Cubs baseball, though. That'll make him stop crying.
Yeah, no kidding.
It'll just make him angry.
For sure. I don't know why Matt Shaw and Owen Casey didn't play today either, by the way. So
that makes two of us.
Let's family. Has been a little bit. You're not to the point in your career that Coach Kerr is, obviously, but family's been as equally as important for you, hasn't it, through the years?
For sure. And I mean, I have memories of they were probably babysitting us and took us to practice with them, and we would hide behind the mats when Jessica would go up to swing because you get hit with one of those balls. So always being in the gym from a young age with Jessica and Brittany, and then visiting my nephews are kind of getting into volleyball now, and they live out in California, which boys volleyball is a little more accessible out there. And we peppered in the backyard, and they love it. And I think they could be setters. Nice big hands. They went to some volleyball camps. So now it's like continuing on in the family. And both my parents were so supportive and encouraging when I applied for the head coach, and to have that backup. And Haley comes in the gym and helps out and volunteers, and I can always talk to her. And she has a great volleyball IQ. She sees things on the court that I still don't see, and she'll be good to have on the bench as well. It's just that family, and with Terry there, obviously, and that role too. It's so special to have her coaching alongside me now instead of as my coach. She's a little bit nicer now that she's not my coach. She's so
here's the thing this is what I have to ask, and Coach Kerr, you might be able to get in on this too. Now, when you were little, was it Aunt Terry? Was it Terry? Was it And what was it?
You know,
and then as a coach,
that's a
did it
good
become Coach
question.
Paul, or did you still call her whatever you called her as an aunt? And then now, what do you call her?
Oh man.
Because then I'm going to ask. I'm going to
Yes.
ask Coach Kerr what he calls her.
It was Aunt. I think it was always. I think it was always Aunt Terry, and then Coach Paul. Now it's just Terry. But her former players, it's still Coach. Cora still called her Coach Paul. Bree still called her Coach Paul. Yeah, they just can't quite call her Terry yet.
Yeah, it's a little different for her, for you.
Yes.
But Coach, like Nemesis,
So-
some of those things probably come to mind.
So when I started, I won't really. The first couple of years I didn't know what I was doing. So once I kind of got my feet under the ground, a little bit, you wanted to dislike the machine that she threw out there. You wanted to not like her. You wanted to, have her as your bulletin board material because she was so good, and they destroyed you every time you played them, and you wanted to not like her, but you just couldn't. She's such a kind individual. She's such a. I've never met anybody who's so much better than everybody else, but yet so humble.
Yes.
And just so kind. And I'm gonna start crying talking about Coach Paul. Jimmy Christmas. But literally, I am so happy with the friendship that we've developed over the years. And she's always. She's either a good actor or she's happy to see me, because it seems like she's happy to see me when she sees me, and maybe she's a good actress. I don't know. I just enjoy seeing her and talking to her, and she's so knowledgeable, and but even beyond that, she's so kind, and she's so matter of fact, and she's so direct. And I just love her, and I don't know what I call her. I don't think I call her Terry. I think I call her Coach or Coach Paul, or I don't even think I can. I don't know.
One of the.
I can't even call her by name. She's up here for me. I don't know.
I compare you and her a lot for West Central Illinois volleyball because of what you guys have done at your programs, and I see you interact with other schools' kids, and I see her do that to some extent. But your interaction is to another level than hers is personally. But she was, late 90s, early 2000s, she'd go to other schools and put on clinics and help and stuff. I mean, she has been a huge part of that, and you've kind of started following her footsteps of that, I think, a little bit because of the way you interact with kids, like the Illini West kids, which everybody expects you guys to be just biggest rivals ever, but you know all of them and you're nice to all of them.
Oh, I hate them, but it's
I didn't say you liked them. I said you're nice to them.
No, it is, and that is some. I think that's maybe just a character flaw of mine. I just love people, and I love talking to them, and I love competing against them. But one of my favorite stories regarding that was a couple years ago when help me with the name, the good girl from Carthage a couple years ago, from Illini West a couple years ago that helped me out. Come on,
Brian. Josie Brian.
Josie, yeah. Oh my goodness, she couldn't stand me. She just gave me a dirty look. We would, and I loved her. And I loved her family, and I coached against her sister, and I know her parents really well. But man, she would just not give in, and she would just give me dirty looks at the captain's meetings, and I'm just eating this up. I'm just feeding into this, just becoming more and more of a friend with her. And so finally, her senior year, after they beat us, then she thought I was okay. But, man, that was a great competitor. But I love just messing with whether it's as a volleyball coach or in my real job or just in life. I just love interacting with people, and that's just
he's a man of the people, as you said earlier.
Right.
What happened when he got here tonight? There was a lady sitting right over here.
Yeah.
Coach Kerr sits down, folks. Honest to God, I'm not lying. He sits down. He goes, "Is she a basketball official?" And Shelby and I are like, "I don't know." So what's he do? He just walks over. He leans right over to her, and she turns her head and jumps for a second. He goes, "Are you a basketball official?" And she was. You were right.
She had some chicken wings. They looked pretty good. I thought I could get one of those, but she did not bite. But no, but I do. I really, honestly, I have so much fun with the other teams, and I've got a lot of friends, relationships that I've developed with other players throughout the years too. Just as far as kids from Unity and kids from Illini West. I'll see them out you I guess I can't really say the Quincy Mall anymore because I don't go there anymore. But
Walmart.
walking down, in Walmart, and you see these kids that you coached against and things, and so that's a bonus for me. I really do like having fun, and sometimes I feel like I'll get to an away game and I'll probably have spent more time with the other opposing coach and the other team than I have on my own, and so.
And that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter that you do that everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen you do that at junior high sectionals and super sectionals.
Sure.
You're standing there the whole time talking to the other team's coach.
Yeah, I do. I'm guilty.
Well, your order's going to be ready in a few minutes, so we probably ought to get going.
Kidding.
Tell us what you're looking forward to this season this year. What's coming up, and then
we're ready to play. Like Tim said, we're itching to play. We played Jacksonville's our first game next Thursday. We played them in the summer at Springfield. They beat us, so I think we're ready to now. I mean, in the summer you have kids gone for a vacation, things like that in the summer. So we weren't at our full squad, or at least that's what we're going to say. So we're ready to play them again and go at them with our full strength. And then following that, Saturday is our Macomb Classic. Great teams. Limestone, who was 3A state. I think were they the runner-up last year, 3A state. Yes. They're a great team. They have a great setter. So look forward to maybe getting a chance to play them. But Eureka, lots of good teams we got in the tournament. Hopefully to compete, start off the season. Just kind of I think our theme that I let the seniors, and we talked about a theme we want for the season, and it's prove them wrong. A lot of talk about with the changes we've been going through, and people might be saying we're with the seniors we lost last year and the
regime change.
And let's prove them wrong and really show them what we're made of this season.
Coach Kerr?
Yeah, and we're in a very similar situation actually. We're exiting one era, Amanda Stevens era where we've averaged 33, 34 wins the last 4 years and won 4 regional championships for the first time in school history. And Amanda is now playing in Indianapolis, so she's not playing on the Lady Suns team anymore. So, we have her little sister, so that's obviously great for us. But we're kind of in the same situation where. Our kind of motto isn't what hers was, but our motto is tradition never graduates. So we want to make sure that we recognize that we're still Lady Suns, that we've developed a good thing in the last several years, and we're gonna expect you to play your best game to try to beat us, and we want to try to do that. So just being able to establish that, and it's one thing to say that and talk a good game, which we're trying to do, but at the same time, you go out and get your butt whipped at the first game, you're going to have some question marks. So for us, getting off to a good start next Tuesday against Pittsfield and then doing well in our tournament at the beginning of the year, it's important for us, and it's a key, I think. And so I'm just looking forward to getting going, and we have a lot of kids that love the game and know how to play the game. We've had good success with these kids in the junior high level, so we're just hoping that can translate into a varsity. We have a lot of kids that, have been, pieces to great teams in the past, but now they're going to have to be the main pieces, the starters, the stars, the leaders, and so I'm looking forward to having those kids be able to step up and do those type of things. So that's really kind of fun as a coach to watch kind of how that progresses and how that evolves over the course of a season, and as we talked before, hopefully you win enough games to keep everybody interested and keep the momentum, and before you know it, the season's going to be over, and you're going to have gone through another season. So Hillary, just a word of advice, just relish every minute and don't blink because it's going to be over soon, and just try to put as many memories as you can, positive memories of the kids and of the plays and of the games, and just try to keep as many of those things at the forefront of your mind as possible, because it's really special, and I look forward to another. This will be my 29th, and it's a new batch of characters, a new kids that are going to be, the stars, and new kids putting up new stats, and that's what I'm excited to see. You've been there as long as I have. You like to see program success, and that might not mean go to the state tournament for us, but it's going to mean be someone who the other team knows you're going to play. You're going to have to play hard and play well to beat us. We have a lot of kids that know how to play the game, and we may be shorter than a lot of teams. We may not be quite as athletic as a lot of teams, but we're going to know how to play the game. We're going to make good decisions. We're going to love each other, and we're going to play hard, and we're going to give it our all. And I'm looking forward to just how all of that plays out through the course of the season.
Well, a lot of times it's really the journey, isn't it, more than the destination?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. It's funny because sometimes you have a successful year and you try to copy those things. I remember the year after we went to state and got second, we tried to play the same songs on the way to games. I'm like, you know what? Let's come up with our own. Let's come up with some new stuff.
Yeah.
That was last year, and I loved last year. And last year, that year was probably my favorite year as coach, just because I had my daughter, and we went so far, and it was we won so many games. But each year it's like, let's just come up with our own new thing. Let's eat at different restaurants. Let's play different songs.
That's the thing about different years,
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's a chance for that team to set their own identity, to do their own thing.
Right. We had a short practice tonight, and I left about 4 o'clock, and they did a bunch of video and pictures and stuff. They're going to try to make a hype video, and we talked about beforehand. I said, let's have our hype video different than last year. Let's be a little sillier. Let's be a little goofier this year than we were last year, because I think that's
it was
the
dead
character,
serious last year.
Yeah, that's the character of this team, and so I think just seeing how that plays out, and kind of trying to figure out what each kid likes and what each kid brings to the table, and trying to mold all that together, and having ending up at the end of the day with a really good team, a good chemistry. That's important, and I think just that process is kind of cool to watch.
Being a high school coach is kind of like reverse chess. The pawns become the king's court, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You don't lose the pawns. You
Yes.
want to keep the pawns and make them the king's court.
That's a good way to put it. Absolutely.
And that's what both of you, I know, have some big shoes to fill this year, but we're greatly appreciative of you guys coming tonight.
Yeah.
I know that it's getting close to the season, and we took a lot of your time, and Shelby said that Coach Kirk could spend an hour talking on his own, and we've talked an hour and a half, so you were pretty.
I know. I told you guys.
Pretty
That's
close
all
to
right, man. That's one reason why we love you, brother.
But
you guys do a great
You're one of the
job.
best,
Yeah.
man. You're one of the best.
You guys are awesome, and we talked about just how much volleyball is grown in the area, and I think you guys are a huge part of that. We blame a lot of things on COVID, but at the same time, that has really opened up. All of a sudden now we have grandparents in Chicago watching games because of you guys, and that's we can't thank you enough for that. It's really, really a blessing for our area, for our families. We have, I know I'm going to cry again. I know, my dad, the last few years of his life, especially the last year, he couldn't come to many games, but he watched everyone. Darn it, I almost made it. He watched everyone, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So,
and when he was able to come, he was genuine enough to come and thank us for being there.
Yeah, good.
And so
my last story on him was the year I keep talking about the year we went to state, but my dad went.
I remember
my
this.
dad went to 3 games that year. We were 39-3.
Yes.
He went to the Macomb game because he thought that was going to be a big one. We lost. He went to the QND game because he thought that was going to be a big one, and we lost. And he went to the state championship game. He would not go to any postseason games in the regional, in the sectional, in the super sectional. He would not go to those games because he thought we were going to lose. And finally, I'm like, Dad, this is the state championship, and he's playing. You got to come to this game. And he came, and we lost. So we were 39-3, but I would not have traded it, and if he wouldn't have been there. So.
Well,
again, thanks to you guys for
Well,
what you do.
I think the girls like seeing it too. Like when you were in the gym with us on Saturday, I think it makes them feel like there's community support behind them, and they like seeing that in the gym. And then their games are getting live streamed, and then family members can watch it. And I think they really appreciate that. And like my dad doesn't even hardly come to the home games anymore because he can't
Stays
get him.
home
Yes, which is good.
All you need is a nice popcorn machine and you're set.
Yeah. But I think the girls really like seeing it too, and they feel that sense of community support behind them.
It's important. I mean, in this day and age, what Dewain does is just freaking fantabulous, and for what I do, just get names out in print or whatever, to do that part. I mean, this is my 34th year, so, and it's like, I get asked all the time when I'm retiring, and I just I just flat out tell them, said, day I stop breathing, I'm done.
And Lynn has a lot to do with that too, right? I mean, you wouldn't have the opportunity to put those in print if it wasn't for Lynn believing in small town newspaper life.
Yeah, absolutely. She, I kind of reached out to her, but it was just like, a town this size, with the area or whatever, not having local sports, to me, was nothing short of criminal, in my opinion.
Yep, and we have some really good athletes, some great coaches, and a lot of great stuff going on.
Oh, my God, that makes it so much. I've had so much fun through all the years, and it's just like, being back up around here and, seeing like Hillary and Coach Kerr is just.
You're kind of a people dude, too. I see you kind of wandering around talking to people, too.
Who's that, me?
Yeah.
Oh, all the time, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of it.
He wanders a lot more than I do, actually.
I mean, I'll walk in and, it's like, I don't want to say I'm a politician necessarily, but I'm like, yeah, hey, how you doing?
Exactly.
Just
kissing hands and shaking babies.
That's right.
It's just because you got to remember, too, since I've been around quite a long time, I know a lot of people, too. So it's like, seeing second generation for quite a while now. And but, that's part of the beauty of it,
I think every kid should move away just so I don't have to see their kids playing. That's what I think. I don't know if that's right or not, but I want to thank the Community News Brief and Rushville Times for helping us get all these people together, and that's Shelby Burget right here. Him and I have been working together for a long time on different levels of things.
Probably longer than either one of us would care to admit.
Yeah, well, that's just because we're older than we care to admit.
Well, yeah.
We've been – what year did you start, Coach Kerr? Well, you start coaching volleyball?
Was it 97 maybe?
So Shelby and I have been working together as long as you've been coaching.
Yeah, so this will be my 29th year.
Yep, we've been coaching.
I remember just his first year when I went down and interviewed him for season preview. Yeah, I remember doing that.
Did he act like he knew what he was talking about, or did he just say, I don't know anything, but we're going to win some games?
It would have been acting if I would have.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us. It's a pretty long show, but I think that you enjoyed it. I know that we did, and thanks to these two coaches for coming and talking to us tonight, and you'll be able to see them quite a bit, both probably in the Community News Brief as the season rolls along, obviously, and then right here on TSSR Game Time Live. So for Shelby Burget, for Coach Tim Kerr from Southeastern, and Coach Hillary Humes from Macomb, I'm Dewain Hulett. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again Monday night. Volleyball starts then. See you.